Just two conscious guys talking, where conscious male leaders come together and have a discussion that is deep, that is nourishing, that allows us to see the illumination of consciousness that's unfolding progressively for men that are waking up in the world, and where you can get insights on your own awakening as a man, and also for amazing women that want to learn more about men's challenges and struggles that have created some of the dysfunction we've seen within men in its society, often called, quote unquote, the patriarchy and other terms. What created it? What is the genesis of it all? What can we do about it today to empower men to be all that they're meant to be and to support the awakening of consciousness for men and women and all? So, wow, it's so great to be here with you today, Dane. Yeah, we're just talking about how much we enjoy connecting and talking with each other, and it doesn't seem like it's been all that long since our last convo, right?
Yeah. To be continued, I believe we said. Here we are.
Great. So yeah, it's summertime, and right now at the time of the recording, I'm not sure it's going to come out a while later, but yeah, it's a good time to kind of chill out a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of stress that builds up, right? That kind of causes us to be like, people like yourself, you actually are listening more. And so you're like, it's time to take a little break, like you told me, right?
Job.
A little pause, right?
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, we in North America, we've been taught to be very driven,
Mhm.
and it's interesting. I'm with the internet, we have access to just the world, really. So it's
Mhm.
just interesting seeing people talk about how different the world is in different places. And yeah, in North America, we have been taught to achieve.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's great. It's great moments, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you stay in that mode, yeah, it can become a habit that then becomes a dysfunctional, if not a way of self-sabotaging in a sense, in
Mhm.
not letting yourself be with life and live with life. So yeah, it's an interesting time, especially because it's such a time of change right now. And I think that big break, like we're talking about mental health a little bit here, and the big break we had with the pandemic, a lot of people reevaluated and had a chance to reevaluate, which that is one of the great things that happened through this pandemic. A lot of people got to stop, which normally just quite simply would never have happened, and
Mhm.
they got a chance to stop and reevaluate. And a
Mhm.
lot of people started to look at careers and that they would rather be in, and not the one they were doing, or
Mhm.
how they were doing their life. And a lot of people actually retired from that and just really changed that go mentality. And now we're the choice. Now it's almost like, do we go back that way or not, kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of questions, a lot of hesitation, and a lot of reevaluation going on. So interesting times, and I think it's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, anything we would say about what's going on is all, yeah, I mean, is in a frame of like the collective and generalities, right? Like, because there's so many scenarios, but yeah, you're right. I mean, the COVID and everything, like, yeah, totally put people in that frame of mind. Well, some people are seeing opportunities, other people are gaining weight, they were committing suicide, right? Like, so it kind of like cuts both ways when there's disruption, right? There's like
Right.
opportunity if people sees it, but for other people that maybe that was their coping mechanism, business as usual, and they don't know how to deal with it, it can lead to more troubles and problems for them because they didn't know how to adjust or have the ability maybe to fully adjust without the right help, maybe. So that's what I see. Yeah.
Yeah. And the one word that you just said that I picked up on was coping. And you know uh, what I have has come up for us lately is just the realization of how many people are using medications to cope. And I just, I sort of makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up when I hear so many people coping and putting their kids on medication to cope. And it's like, oh, and I honestly, it's like, how do you deal with that? Like, as a person who, I think it's a completely last resort. And I believe that the Meds for Life program should be very few. Yes, in some situations, it can be helpful and needed. And for a short term, where a person is a danger to themselves or others, yes, medication, behavioral medication, antidepressant, and so on, could be helpful. But the number of people that are on medications on a regular basis to cope is astounding and a little bit concerning. So
Yeah.
I don't know your take on that, but
Yeah.
I think that's, once again, going back to the mental health issues,
Right.
yeah, I don't see that as a solution. And we're being sold as that as a solution. And that's where the work that we do is really important, I believe, and helping people to connect with that inner life instead of numb it out. So it's yeah, that too makes it a very interesting time.
Yeah, I mean, there's more and more tools for people to try to calm down. People are learning about breath work and meditation and all kinds of things, but and yoga is more embraced. All these different things are getting more embraced and helping with mental health for people, again, that are taking advantage of it. And then there's always people that may not be. But yeah, I mean, it's great. I totally, yeah, I understand. Like, when myself, I've been there with my own mental health journey. Um, Growing up and uh, typical, just I don't fit in, that kind of thing, and just dealing with all those things. And so the anxiety builds up because you feel like you can't be yourself. So to be myself, my experience was you get laughed at. I don't know if it was so much being extra picked on or anything like that. It was more like I was just laughed at, like, what a fool or whatever, like, like that kind of stuff, just being laughed at by being so joyful or so outrageous, and how it's behaving, or just over enthusiastic to other people's minds. So then you just start suppressing, you start holding it in, and just don't
Right.
be like that. And, and you're not sure how to express yourself now. And I think there's a lot of people that still feel that way as adults. I know to some degree, I probably still do. I'm like, oh, how do I express myself better, or, whatever, still layers of it, I suppose. But like, yeah, just feeling like you have to go into a shell, and that led
Right.
to depression, anxiety, and medications and things like that.
So
And
did you experience depression yourself, Daniel?
yeah, totally.
Okay.
I was very depressed as in high school, especially. And then I
Okay.
had other bouts of it, like I would say in briefer periods of time. Well, I did almost for a good part of a year, like when I was senior year of college. It was a tough year. And then other times in my life is more periodic. It's probably not a prolonged depression, but
Right.
times
So
when
did you ever have get put on medication? Did you ever take
yeah,
medication?
yeah, like
Okay.
I said, like back when I was in high school, I got put on medications, which I probably don't remember all the stuff I took, but I believe along the line, between college and then also in high school, I was on things like probably Prozac, and I know Klonopin and things like that. And then I had another episode of massive anxiety when I was going from a master's in clinical psychology, because I got in this mindset that I will achieve more than everybody, and all this stuff. And I was falling asleep with books in my hands and stuff. Like, I was just like, I like, you can't stop me. I keep going, and I outwork everybody. And I was saying that before it became so fashionable to say, oh, I'm the hardest working guy in the room. I was saying that back then. Like, it wasn't as a thing on social media. It wasn't around back then, but I was saying that to myself, and then I ended up like, I can't sleep anymore, right? And then that led to, okay, take this dose of Klonopin. They tried something else first, Klonopin, to be able to sleep at night, and it did help. It did work. But yeah, obviously, if I could go back in time, I'd be like, no, I'm not taking it. someone help me to deal with what I'm actually dealing with rather than
Right.
get that pill, you know. That's you know, that's the way it goes. Those things are highly physically addictive, you know.
Yeah. It's
Theologically.
fascinating what they have done with medications, is it not? And you know, I have to say that, you know, hearing your story, I mean,
Mhm.
you can be a real help to people because you have been through that, huh? So
Mhm.
you know about that route of being put on medication, going through depression. I mean,
Yeah,
that must have been a very difficult thing to.
right.
Do you still deal with depression at all now, or?
No, I mean, I get, you know, I get big energies because I'm an empathic guy. So I feel a lot of fear, a lot of anger, a lot of depression, momentarily, a lot of anxiety, and all kind of a mix sometimes even, right? I feel all of that at once. And, but, you know, because of the, you know, I don't know, state of being I have overall, it doesn't usually last very long. And, you know, for, I had an episode this morning. I mean, it was an hour or two or something like that. And then, okay, storm died down now. Feeling good, right?
No, I
Yeah.
guess. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's just these storms come in, and I can have disturbed sleep sometimes, even still. And then I'll sleep great for weeks, and you know, it comes in periods and storms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I think is you have the knowledge, the information.
Right.
You are not your thoughts, and
Right. Exactly.
about energy and so on. So, you know, that's enormous, you know, for that. I mean, if we buy into that cycle of thoughts that comes with that storm of negativity, that storm of depression, like, oh, yeah, I can see where it would just take a person over. So, you know, you spoke earlier about the gift of meditation and being able to still that thinking mind and energy work and just the knowledge that you're a spiritual being, you know, is enormous. It just reminds me of, Bill W., who was the starter of AA. And he actually went to see, I don't know if you know this or not, he went to see Carl Jung because
Mhm.
he was an addict and he
Mhm.
wanted to stop. So he went to the best, Carl Jung, and he saw Carl Jung for, I don't know, few months or something. And Carl Jung basically said, you know, until you find your spirituality, you know, there's nothing you can, you know, he didn't say you're
Mhm.
going to die, but he said, yeah, you're lost until that time.
Mhm.
And Bill W. started the AA program, which is probably the biggest spiritual program in the world today. So once again, it's that knowledge and that awareness. And when you have that knowledge, you can practice slowing the mind down. You can practice disconnecting from your thoughts, knowing you're not your thoughts. You can practice uh, that self-care and that leisure and that self-love ultimately. So I believe that, you know, the very foundation of our mental health issues is trauma. It's just which is unfinished business. And you know, a lot of my job is to educate people as to how they're working in that way, and that
Mhm.
it's cycling within you,
Right.
stuck in your nervous system, trapped in your body.
Mhm.
So, you know, when they have that awareness, when I learned about that, it was a big sigh of relief for me because of what I went through with my central nervous system, you know, revving out of control. So when I learned that, it gave me a place to start, and it gave me an understanding as to that's what's happening to me, and it wasn't the ultimate me. It wasn't me ultimately. It was something happening within me, within my nervous system, and which led to doing the inner child work ultimately, and calming that part that was so afraid, so anxious, and you know, for some, so depressed or suppressed is probably a more accurate word for depression. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. Totally, because that's exactly how it felt for me is like I've got this the exuberant child didn't feel like it was fully embraced or welcomed, you know, a lot of times or most of the time. And so I'm like, oh, okay, and pull that back in and you know, not don't show that side and other sides of myself, some of my natural leadership energy and take charge energy and things like that. You know, just feeling out of sorts, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be like that. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe this, maybe that. You know, like all the conclusions just are coming to based on what you feel. The feedback is you're getting from your environment is
Right.
like, whoa, you know, when people are all laughing at you because you're acting in a certain way, or you get rejected, you feel rejected. Yeah, it's all of a sudden you're like, I don't know how to handle that. And then specifically, yeah, I mean, as a man, as a boy, you know, at that point, but you know, coming from that perspective, I think it's like it's always the same thing, right? It's like this whole thing about needing to be strong, and you know, so the best way to be strong, I think that again, we talk about again ad nauseum on this show, but is, well, you know, I'll be more Teflon. I won't show my emotions. Like recently, somebody in a negotiation with me, like says, I don't know what you're thinking or feeling. You're so flat with the way your face is. So to this day, I still have some of that going on. Like I'm not going to show too much, right? So I know it's stronger not to show too much sometimes, you know, and I can be very emotional in front of people sometimes too. But like there's still some of that in me, like don't show the weakness, don't show the vulnerability, right? It's a strong pattern, I believe, in men, right? Is you got to be. I know you have a big one, you know, from in the past anyway. I mean, you had a big one, so.
No, it's interesting because the work we do, we work one-on-one with people, and empaths is specifically, you know, which is people that are very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can, with surety, say you were probably a very sensitive child. Yes.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And in that, you know, our society doesn't support that. And unless we have, you know, parents that are tuned in, and they can understand that sensitivity, we end up, like you say, suppressing that energy, which is our natural expression, which is natural to us. And it's just in a society that doesn't, you know, it's not accepted, it's not understood, and therefore tends to be rejected and maybe even feared. So, you know, it reminds me of that one saying, it is not a degree of success to, no, it is not a degree of, it is degree of success to be well adjusted to a sick society. What's, maybe you know that one?
Something like that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
the
yeah,
exact
yeah.
quote, but I've heard of
It's
it.
not a sign of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society.
Yeah,
Something,
something like that. Yes.
and it's true. And in that, you know, regarding mental health, you know, on the overall, you know, maybe men specifically, I think we need to take time out and literally, you know, block the world out in that way and just be with ourselves. And you
Mhm.
know, from that place, we can be our own um, judge, our own uh, counselor kind of thing, and hold our own counsel. There's what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think in regards to mental health, some of it may really coming down to trusting ourselves. And that trusting ourselves means not taking in all the information that is forever coming at us from advertising and from, you know, everything from the internet to TV to radio to podcasts. No, not good podcasts. You know, even family and friends and so on. But just to be with ourselves. And
Mhm.
um, I'm a big believer in the Vipassana. Do you know what Vipassana is?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yes,
haven't
yes, yes.
attended those specifically, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not, we talked about that the last time we got together. But I've been to my own, you know, silent meditation retreats, run them, and all that sort of thing. There, and we did concluded they are essentially the same. But I haven't been to as long as one as you. It's probably you've been to the whatever 12, 13, 14 days, what have you.
It's just great. And I mean, it's just, I just say Vipassana because it's such a good example. But in that, you get to go and be with yourself, and no, and they're not to talk with other people, and they provide your food and so on. So you don't have to worry about even making food, and you can just be with yourself and kind of keep everything else at bay. And for a lot of people, I'm sure that just scares the hell out of them to
Oh, yeah,
be with yourself in that way.
yeah.
But in that way, you can be with you and you can hold your own counsel, because we're in an age of overload of information. We don't need more information. We need to more unlearn than we do to learn. So I think that's a big change, or a big difference between things like personal development and personal growth. Personal development tends to be focused on attaining and, you know, information
Mhm.
and technique and so on. At least this is my perception of it. And
Mhm.
personal growth is more about self-awareness and understanding, and potentially slipping into that stillness, that silence, where your what I call higher self can come through. So that's kind of the higher end of mental health, and for some people it's more about coping, but I really think the slowing down aspect is definitely the biggest part of it. And when I say slowing down, I don't mean necessarily sitting on the couch eating bonbons, but being able to slow this thing down. And when we understand that all of our problems stem from our thinking, we'll start to take a look at that and hopefully understand that we are not our thoughts. And when we can, have that, create that separation simply through the act of observing our thoughts, that right there is proof that you're not your thoughts, because you can observe them. So, and that's the first step to sanity, first of all, and in that to real and lasting peace, is to understand that you can separate from that thinking mind, and in that, when you observe it when it's running, you have a choice. You are at power. You are at choice at that point. So it's just really important to be able to understand, to slow down enough to observe your thoughts instead of having them take you over and having to cope. Because as long as you're coping with your thoughts, you're still in the thinking mode. You're still a rat in the wheel.
Right. Yeah, totally. And for most people anyway, their thoughts are going to get busy at times, and that's perfectly fine. But as you like when I'm in a big storm, it just I'm just caught in it. But once the storm dies down, then I feel that space again. I'm feel more connected with the observer, and it probably never really goes away entirely. I know it's always there, but all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't ever say to myself, you are not that thought necessarily, but it's like, like the trueness of life is the space, like that's the deepest trueness of life is in the stillness. I guess that's it, that everything else is like, all this other stuff. So yeah, absolutely. And but yet you have a human experience that you're having. And I would say this, like on the whole thing with like unlearning, sometimes you're unlearning by maybe taking in some new information though. So that's why people would want to buy your book or some, or other people's books or stuff. But like when you're just learning, I've run into this lately. I used to be just the opposite. I used to be like more like what you're saying, like, no, I don't need learning anymore. And I did that. And I'm not saying you're that way, but I'm just saying like that's how I got like, okay, just I'm the observer. Life is teaching me. And for many years I was very much focused on just that. And then I realized I was maybe for me personally, just me personally I'm speaking, I felt like I was shutting out some learning that could be maybe instrumental, helpful to me, at the same time to take in some more input. So I think it all depends on the season of life.
Well,
unconsciously seeking knowledge. Oh my God, this will help me. This will cure me. This, that's an endless rabbit hole. But I think it's how you approach it is the way I see it. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, we have two minds. We can call it the small mind if we like, the thinking mind. That is the intellect. And I say that there's intelligence and there's wisdom. And I'll call it the small mind, the thinking mind. There's intelligence. We can do math, we can do English, we can understand and comprehend and navigate our way through this physical experience. The higher mind is the all and the everything. It's connected. And when you still the small mind and you connect to that high mind, you feel that connection. But we chose to come to experience this space-time reality. And that small mind is what allows us to experience that. So it's having the balance. And this takes me back to the left-right brain thing, because what we do is a left-right brain process. But it was Betty Edwards in her book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. She talked about we come into the world whole brain. And around the age of 6 or 7, a split starts to occur in our brain. And around the age of 9 or 10, an actual split occurs and we become left and right brain. And in that, that's such a prime example of how we exist in this world. It is two worlds, it is two minds, but we have to have a foot in both.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have one foot fully in the little mind and the thinking mind, we stay in that, we will make ourselves crazy. We will not experience fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
If we're fully in the connect the one large mind, and I mean, I don't know because I've never stayed there full time, but you can't stay there full time is my experience.
Mm-hmm.
But in that, how's the saying go? Don't be so spiritual that you're of no worldly good. And
Right.
I don't know how true. I mean, once again, there's
Right.
context involved in that.
Right.
But the fact is, we are in a physical world. But when we go to that higher mind, that higher consciousness, we can feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
We can feel that connection. We can feel everything is all right. We connect with that stream of well-being that is always there.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, we can go out and be, use the smaller mind in that way,
Mm-hmm.
and still stay connected to that feeling of security, still
Mm-hmm.
feel connected to that sense of connection to everybody and everything, still stay in that place of feeling loved. So, we live in a duality, and it's important to have a foot in both of those worlds. But that's where a spiritual practice, as far as mental health is concerned, that's the foundation, because we forget. It amazes me how fast we forget. We'll get into the doing, achieving, and the intellectual mind, the thinking mind, and just get lost in that world.
Mm-hmm.
So to have a spiritual practice that we do daily is important to, yes, disconnect from that and come back to the higher mind. And they're both real. Both worlds are real to us. But when we disconnect from, or should I say, when we get too invested in the physical world, we lose ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll call it I keep using higher. I should use another term, but the connected self. And when I say connected, I mean connected to other people and the world as a whole, because we already know at the very foundation, there's nothing here but energy, and we are a part of that energy field, not separated from it at all. And that's science, that's truth. So it's important to be in both worlds so we can have balance in this world. And I believe we're coming to that. And I think maybe the mental health crisis, which we are going through right now, is one of the pointers, because we are having such mental health issues in the world that it's, for a lot of people, it's a scary world to live in because of mental health issues. And for other people, it's a scary world because there's so many people out there with mental health issues. So it's about creating that balance. And right now, it's like that the small intellectual, intelligent mind has been ruling. And I think we need more balance. And that's where we're going into now, to have that balance.
Yeah, I mean, there's all the talk of all the different things, like, all right, well, like here in the States, it's like, let's take away all the guns, or no, only the big guns, or this or that, or, and, but then, so that starts dominating the headlines. What I would prefer is and it's getting a little bit better. I feel like there is a little more awareness coming through now. But like, okay, they're usually all like young men, often probably white men, if I were to look up to all the numbers, and it makes sense with the population. But like, okay, they've got mental health issues, okay? So why don't we take care a little bit more on the mental health, rather than there's been guns, for a long time. I mean, you could say, well, there's too many now, that's the problem. But like, but my point, not to get into the whole controversy there, but it's like, sometimes we're like, to get to some of your points in a way, like we're missing like the deeper thing. What's the real issue here? Is it climate change? Is that the big thing? Or is it the consciousness that created the climate change, that supposedly is destroying the earth and all this, which, I don't know. That's all very debatable in my world. So, but it's like, okay, but there's something there to look at, right? So there's something to look at, but often we don't look at the deeper thing. Instead, we're like, look at this thing right here that our minds can get our heads around, right? This is something where we feel more comfortable to talk about this. We don't know how to access the deeper consciousness or the deeper stuff that's going on individually and collectively, and then we don't get those things handled. So I think that's where we have a huge opportunity as men and women in the world to be like, okay, we really want to handle this consciously. What's the consciousness that created? That's why I have this show, for example. What created this idea? Like, it's a patriarchy is dominating and destroying everything. And okay, all right, so let's say it's true. What created it? Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Let's start looking at the deeper aspects. One is this whole idea that men have to keep achieving and conquering and, more profits, more this, more that. Yeah, that's the patriarch, the stock market, all that stuff. I mean, all these things, it's like, it's all the corruption, everything. Yes, you probably all would be labeled in the patriarchy space. Whatever, but I'm just saying, like, okay, what's creating that though? We have to address the core of it. Once the energy starts to be unplugged, like, the whole thing will start to change. It's the consciousness, right? The whole Einstein thing, we can't create something new at the same level of consciousness that created the old stuff, right? I mean, that's not his exact quote, but that's what he said. So it's really realizing that. That's why us looking at ourselves individually and collectively, our paths are so important. Like, so when I say, like, if I've got really unconscious with my stuff, which we all get unconscious at times, but like, I'd be like, in grad school, oh, everybody thought I was like this. Oh, show them, right? And it's that unconscious driver stuff that creates so much harm. Even if there's temporary good that may come through it, there's a long-term pain that's coming, right? Whereas when you're coming from that wholeness, you're talking about the higher mind, more good things tend to just keep coming. Yeah, there's challenges, sure, big time, but it tends to flow better. More good things happen, right? So yeah, so I love what you had to say about, higher mind, and how we get caught in the lower mind or the little mind, or however we're labeling it. But yeah, it's critical, for us to start coming from the bigger mind consistently with everything in our lives, myself included. I mean, all of us. So
it's great. What you talked about is we keep dealing with the effect.
yeah,
And as long as we deal with the effect, we're just going to keep chasing our tail.
right.
And it's interesting because the conversation we're having isn't the conversation you're going to hear on the street at this point. Maybe eventually consciousness will be a more common word, understood word, and a known as cause. And in so many fields it is. In the sports field, you look at sports psychology and even visualization and so on. I mean, it's huge in the sports world. They know that what they put out is, we are creative. We can't help it. Our thoughts are creative. Mm-hmm. And, you talked about something like the environment, and we can change the environment, but we have to change it in us first. Mm-hmm. And as long as we keep looking at the effect, if we look at the effect for the climate and environmental change, we're done. Mm-hmm. Just have a good time because we're done, according to science in that way. But we do have a higher knowing, and we do have the ability to change, but that means understanding cause. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about cause, to a lot of environmentalists, it might be recycling more, which is obvious. It's just very true. Less fossil fuels and all that stuff. When we are able to get to the actual cause, which it goes back to the spiritual self, that will naturally occur. Yeah. And so I love what you're doing here, starting this conversation and bringing this conversation to the forefront, because it's not a conversation that you have, like I say, with everybody. So, maybe we can start here and keep this conversation going out, just how powerful we are, that we as individuals are cause to our world. And, it sounds a little out there, a little bit, too much for some people to say that you are the center of the universe. Mm-hmm. But you are the center of the universe. Mm-hmm. and it is coming out from you. So to understand our power, and which means understanding what we are creating with our words, with our actions, and with our thoughts, is really the start. So action is great, but like you said, if it doesn't have the consciousness behind it, it'll never stick anyway.
Yeah, it
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, let's
So
clean up the streets in New York or whatever the project. Okay, we did it. All right. Then all of a sudden, smell comes back, right? Because that was the idea, like with Giuliani when he was mayor, right? He's got to, they've destroyed his name now, but he went in and he like him or not, like he did this big cleanup of the city. A lot of things did improve, no doubt about it. Everybody would agree. Things got a lot better. Okay. Eventually what happens? Well, the undergird of what created in the first place came right back in, right? So that deeper shift didn't take place. So yeah, it was good for a while, but now it's, people can argue it's worse than ever, right? So okay, now we're not only that back to where we were before, but maybe people could argue we're even worse. So you have to deal with the underlying cause for sure. Now I wanted to talk. I did, usually, probably we're going to be starting with this more with other people I'll be talking to about mental health, but I did want to get to your story before we run out of time today. But I mean, because you were in sports, hockey, and all that, and so mental health wise, what was going on for you like that? What issues did you? Because I know you have a mental health path. So what kind of mental health issues?
No, it's interesting because I say that, like, just to give viewers a recap as to what happened to me, is I was dealing with a childhood abuse issue, which was affecting my relationships enormously. I could not sustain a long-term intimate relationship. I would destroy it somehow within a year and a half tops, kind of thing. And I came to realize that the common denominator was in this situation was me. So I had to look at me. And what happened when I went to go look, I had a therapist / healer who was highly referred to me, and she proceeded to try to force the childhood trauma out of me. And it just messed me up. And that was the biggest trauma of my life, no question. And I think, we're always growing, we're always becoming more and letting go of those parts of us that, aren't true anymore and aren't serving us and aren't a part of our higher self, higher consciousness. But after that situation, I literally lost everything. I say that I was doing really well in my life, and for the most part I was. I had a very successful business. I had a beautiful, living on the top floor of overlooking the ocean, gorgeous place, driving the vehicle of choice, doing some traveling and so on. So when this happened, I felt inside, I felt so insecure. It was like jittery platelets. All of a sudden I was unstable and I lost everything. I lost contracts, I lost the sale of a business and clients. And within 18 months, I was broke. And within 3 years, I was homeless. Wow. And that was by far the biggest trauma I had. And it took me 5 years to discover this process that I now teach that helps people to bring trauma to resolution, not to cope with it. You don't have to cope with it. You don't have to try to overcome it. You don't have to compensate for it. And it's not a medication. It's very natural. It's organic. And you get to heal from the inside out. But my point with that was the biggest trauma in my life. And I say I was doing very well up until that time, which I was. But the growth that has occurred from there is significant too. So it's, I did have a very strong spiritual practice before that. And that's, in a sense, that's what brought on the next stage of growth, which was such a huge stage of growth for me. But I have to say that my specialty is self-care. And that's kind of what I'm moving into now. Like I deal with people dealing with trauma. I help people dealing with trauma. That's always there. And I have different facilitators and so on. But my knowledge in how to look after myself, in how to give myself what I need and stay in tune with what I need, that's probably the biggest gift I have to give. And in that, it's physical, it's mental, emotional, and it's spiritual. It's not one. Yes, we're spiritual beings, but yes, we have an apparently physical body. And everything from the fuel that we put in that body, what we eat, has a huge effect on how we feel. Therefore, on our meditations or how mentally grounded we are.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise, when we speed up the body, the mind slows down. Exercise is important. It's not an option. And stretching, to be in tune with your body, I consider that not an option in life either. And things like meditation, where you're directly slowing the mind down and connecting to source, and everything from prayer or affirmative prayer or reading truth, spiritual material, all those things are really important in our world, to look after ourselves. So mental health, we consider it just the brain, but no, it's the full package. And I think you can take it all the way back to our educational system, which is so left-brained. It's all about analytics. It's, math, science, English, great. But when we start to teach awareness, we start to teach how we work as a body with a nervous system. We start to teach the science of the mind and being able to still the mind. That's when we're onto something. Right now, it's kind of like the academics tend to, I wouldn't say run the world. That wouldn't be correct. But in the business world and so on, a lot of it is the academic that is looked at. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's where everything is up for review right now, which is great, because we have to shift from the core, from the cause. Mm-hmm. So the cause, regardless of what's going on, is us. Yes, I can complain about the government. I can complain about the educational system. I can complain about my neighbor, my spouse, or whatever. But it's all going on inside of me. And that's where self-care and self-awareness, that's getting to cause. So men, yes, we've had, this programming, and I think we say it's been uprooted, but it's still there and very much alive in different parts of the world and in different pockets all over, about being strong and being the man and being the leader and so on. Mm-hmm. And we are all we're all different. We all have different slants. For some people that might be more natural. For most people, it's learned. But regardless, if you're that person and are shutting out the feeling aspect of you to get something done, mm-hmm. shutting out the feeling aspect of you to be strong for somebody else, shutting out the feeling aspect of you to not show your vulnerability, that is going down in the wrong direction. And that is, once again, a big aspect of the issue of mental health. Mm-hmm. And in mental health, we get to, believe it or not, lose control, not gain. We think that gaining mental control is mental health. And if we have a steel trap attitude about our mental health and our mind, we're probably going to crash. And we're seeing that where people are, they freak out, because you can only hold that together for so long without our spirit, which is the essence of our feeling self, needing to come forth. Mm-hmm. So in regards to mental health, for males, it's about learning to feel and being okay with the feeling. You can only love yourself if you can feel yourself. And in that feeling yourself, you're able to accept yourself. Mm-hmm. So I said a whole lot in that, a long ways.
Oh, that's great.
Just keeping it in the realm and in the vein of males and mental health. It's just allowing yourself to feel. And I think maybe for some people, they hear the word feeling and they think it means emotion and emoting and crying and no, when you get down to the very essence of feeling, without the brain grabbing it, making it something right, bad, good, or wrong, it's energy. Mm-hmm. And sure, there's more than likely some tears that may come out when you let yourself feel, and that's okay. But it's not about um, being so emotional that you're not holding together. Fact is, if you don't let that stuff out, you're never going to get to what's real for you. You're never going to have a sense of real security, of real self-love. So that's probably the biggest aspect of mental health for males at this point, is letting themselves feel and connecting with organizations, groups where you are able to feel and express that feeling. And there's getting to be more and more. But I think that's really a big key for us, is to be able to feel and accept our feelings, which is able to accept ourselves and therefore be able to learn how to love ourselves.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
just,
think that shows up in every way too. Like when we're looking out into the world and looking at issues going on, or things that are being shown as the big issues of the day, right? Like, you should be mad about this or be mad about that. Yeah. And then there's like this idea, like, yeah, that is an outrage. We should be mad, right? On whatever side of the issue you even take. Like, yeah, I'm angry. Oh, pitchforks out, right? And so rather than pitchforks out, like maybe if we could allow ourselves instead to, like you said, like, wait a minute, what's going on inside of me that's like pitchforks out? Like, what's
real
going
for
on
me.
inside of me? What's happening with that? Because if I'm charging forward with my pitchfork, eventually there's going to be pitchforks coming back at me. It may not happen today, but it's going to happen eventually. Also, they're going to come right back. They're going to be like, ah, energetically or, metaphorically, it's going to come back. I mean, it's a kind of a law of the universe, right? It's like, what you put out there, when you reap, you're going to sow, So, so instead of doing that, going the karmic wheel, it's like we have an opportunity to drop into that deeper connection, like you said, the deeper space where everything is just organically, naturally occurring and unfolding. And yeah, and so just why not allow ourselves to trust that more? I think is kind of the big thing, is like, can we trust that more? And then and to do, like you said, to trust the feelings that do emerge, because we're not just like, whoa, I'm at one with God and it's permanent and I never feel anything other than connection and love and beauty. And no, everybody, again, I don't believe people that say they never experience it. But yeah, but even then, even if there were some people that are totally enlightened and never feel any of this stuff, like, still it's like 99.95%, whatever, it's a huge number of people that go through the flux of energy, even if that were true. So we need to feel what's coming up so that we can connect with it, to experience that wholeness that you talk about, Dane. I mean, experience the wholeness that we are. And then when you feel whole, you're more like, oh, okay, this is happening. All right. If there's
Yeah.
anything you do
Yeah.
about it, you can still respond, but you're responding from awareness rather than,
Then you become the
yeah,
solution. You bring
right,
light
right,
to
right, right,
the
right.
situation. It's
Mm,
funny because the other aspect of what we do is dealing with the archetypes. And the
mm,
archetypes are the four aspects, the four pillars of our being, which is the warrior, the lover, the magician, and the sovereign. And we all have those aspects in us.
mhm,
The lover that needs that beauty, that sensuality, that touch. Nature, for example, being in nature is a good symbol of the lover. We have the warrior
mm,
that needs to have that effort, that outpouring of energy, what have you. And we use working out as an example, but it could be an accountant who needs to get her done, and you just kick in and you get it done. That warrior aspect comes to life. The magician, which is curiosity, playfulness, creation, manifestation. We all have that playful aspect of us that knows how to create, and however that is, it's different for different people. And then the sovereign, which is your inner leader. Your inner leader, not a leader with the sword and the shield, but the inner leader that knows your direction, that knows where to move. And I use meditation as an example of your inner leader as your sovereign, because it's that solid knowing, and the moving tends to be in a way that is just how do I say it? It's not fighting. It's not fighting its way. It just knows its way and goes in the direction that is right for us. So those four aspects. And, a lot of times the warrior is so strong in people that it dominates all the rest, because we have kind of been taught, especially males, we've been taught and keeping that armor up, shall we say, to not let people into our heart because maybe we've been hurt. Maybe we've been laughed at, maybe we've been, told we're not good enough or whatever. So we keep that armor up, keep that shield up. And it's really interesting doing the archetypical work, because we literally do have these aspects in us. It seems quite far out to talk about it. But when you do it, it's like you recognize that it's a part of you. And, the lover aspect, we all have that. And males are no different. We have that lover aspect. We have needs within us, whether it be of touch, whether it be of sensation, whether it be, nature and just the senses being filled, whether it be smell, whether it be sound, whether it be touch, whatever it is. But we all have that lover aspect. We all have these needs that need to be fulfilled. And it's phenomenal when we do fulfill these needs. And some of us have blocked them out so much we don't even know that we have these needs. But it's phenomenal when they do get fulfilled, how good that person feels and how much they get a bigger sense of themselves. And this is for us, the work that we do, that's how we help people to accept themselves. And it's getting to know yourself on that deeper level. And once again, most of our clients are female. I think it's 75, at least 75% tend to be female. And the males, it's interesting with the work that we do, which is left-right brain work. It's like females are hardwired, or just wired for this work. They have more access to their brain. So it's like they can't lie to themselves. With the males, they can still hedge the bet. And it is that, keeping things at bay. So it's definitely getting better. And excuse me, when a male gets it, they really get it, kind of thing. But with the males, it is learning how to feel and trusting the feeling, letting yourself feel and trusting the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, we're trying to stuff that sucker away or just deny it even to ourselves. No, I'm good. I'm fine. No, I don't have an issue there. I'm fine. No, you don't understand. Like, it's really like this. And then, he's trying to be able to say, try to make it sound like we're fine. No, usually I'm fine there, and I don't have issues there or whatever. And and you may even believe yourself. It's not like you're just trying to lie. It's like, I think, like, a lot of times that's what we do as guys, and women do it too to some degree, for sure. But
I hear what you're saying, and it's still new. We have a lot of the not say new age, but that seems to be the people, the group that people identify with. But excuse me, the males are still learning to trust their feelings and to let themselves be seen in that way. So it's you are leading the field in this way, in letting this conversation happen. And to be a man in this day and age, once again, it's different in different places, different pockets, different parts of the world, and so on. But to feel is to get in touch with what's true for you, is to get in touch with your power. So once again, in this day and age, we still have people that believe in I'm the man, and women should be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. But that's getting to be less and less. And it's really of no concern to us if we're serious about getting real in our life and living a life that we really love to live and want to be fulfilled. We want to access our power. And our power isn't out there. It's in there. So in that, we have to learn to find and trust what's in there and let that out, because there's an unlearning. The first learning is understanding that there's life within you. And once you have that understanding, the second learning is unlearning. That's, to get to the truth of that life within you, you have to let those things that have been piled on top of you. I have to be strong. I can't cry. I am the leader and I have to be in charge. I can't be wrong, or I'll be weak. I can't be weak. all those things. When you can let all those things go, you can get down to your real power and you can be who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot, or like when you have a family, for some guys, not everybody feels this way maybe, but to some degree, I think a lot of men do. It's like, I've got to be the one to provide for the family. I've got to protect my family, I mean, to this day, I still have that instinct in me, like, hey, what's happening, especially at nighttime, like, where is everybody? Is everybody got back home? Where, like, like, like that vigilance, like, I gotta make sure if I have to get after somebody, I will. Like, it's running somewhere in my consciousness. I'm like, wait a minute, okay, I don't think it's that serious, right? Like, I gotta breathe. Okay, it's okay, and all. Like, my daughter just turned 18. She's like, I could be out all night or whatever, right? And I'm like, yeah, but yeah, I'm still concerned about you. Yes, and that's still a little concerned. And I know you're a good kid, but you got a little concerned. Create some tension for me. Work with me. I'm vulnerable enough to tell my daughter, it's not you, it's me. Rather than like top down, like, no, you just, just come up with stories to not show I'm vulnerable. But I'm just vulnerable right now. I don't feel safe.
So, that is so good for them to see that to hear you say that. And that's the thing. I mean, it's not like, we're not going to be, saints overnight or fearless overnight. And that wouldn't be correct. That wouldn't be right. But just for them to see that, one, you're working on yourself. Right. And two, that you're not perfect, right. and to show that you care. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, and it's not about throwing out reason. And even though what is reasonable to you 10 years ago might not be reasonable now, or 20 years ago might not be reasonable now, but it's not about jumping off a cliff. It is about, talk about the onion and peeling the layers of the onion to get down to what's real for you. Right. But when you have a family, it is a game changer. When you have kids, it is a game changer, and there is a responsibility there. There's no question. And it's the biggest job in the world. You don't need a certificate for that. And I think there's that's a lot of the mental health issues too, is where some people are born into families which are they're just not prepared to be parents, and they're not prepared. So to see a parent who is conscious and consciously working on themselves and cares about their kids, they're great mirrors for you, as you know. And for you as a man, they're going to challenge you, which is good. And in that, you get to go to it. Kids, if anything's going to bring out the real in you, if anything cuts to the quick, kids can be they just see through everything, and they know what's going on.
Sure. We know how to rile them up if we want to, right? So absolutely. Good thing they're good kids. So that's not as bad in my case, but yeah, definitely. So anyway, well, we could talk for hours, of course, and I love that. And yet we keep this show to a certain length. So Dane, this round, I'm having people share a little. I just wanted it to be just a conversation, but I'm like, hey, some of you guys are experts. You could be helping people. So if people want to maybe get some help from you in some way, or just whatever, check you out, etc., where are some places they can do that?
So they can go to An Extraordinary Life, extraordinarylife.ca. And there that talks, it's more the Neuro Trauma Healing Process and some of the Soul Re-Cognition stuff. So it goes from trauma into empowerment. And then DaneStevensOnline.com, that's just my personal site, more to the empowerment, speaking and workshops and so on. So they can go there. And you can get my book online, which is Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. And that's on Amazon. And the second book is coming out hopefully this year, fingers crossed. And that goes more into the archetypes, which I talked about. So and one way, like we talked about in regards to male mental health, a way to get into feeling in a way that doesn't feel like you're jumping off a cliff, or isn't too much for people, is writing. Just journaling, just starting to journal in that way. And in the journaling, start to ask yourself questions. And as you start to ask yourself questions, you'll find you start to go deeper. So in that, you're still in control, but that writing, just the simple act of writing. So don't type, none of that. No. I guess you could speak into a microphone, I suppose, but I suggest writing, because writing affects thousands of neural pathways in your brain. So I suggest doing some journaling and get yourself in that mode where you're letting out what wants to come out. And know thyself is the key. So that's the learning that I am suggesting, because that learning goes beyond the programming, the male program that we have, a programming we've all received. And that's where you get to what's true for you. So let out what wants to come out. Excuse my voice. I'm losing my voice here.
No problem. Yeah. No problem. Absolutely. I mean, the journaling is really powerful. I, especially as a journaler as a teenager, and with your work, I in part, partly like more recent years, some of your work brought me more into some more journaling again and everything. And you just even saying that today inspires me to want to get into it some more again. So, yeah, powerful stuff. Just to write out what you're feeling, like literally just processing it. It can be enough. Yeah, it can be very helpful.
Yeah. And in that, ask why. And so, we ask, just write how you're feeling right now. And then you can just put a question, why, question mark, and then let yourself write.
Yeah.
And you'll be amazed at what you can learn by simply letting yourself speak, letting that inside speak. And what's great about the writing is it's physical. So you're letting the body speak. So the thinking mind lies to you all day long, or just tells you untruths all day long because it doesn't have the full picture. So the body can't lie. So if you stay in your mind, you're going to be a rat in the wheel and you'll never get out of that. So this is just the start of getting out of that, is writing, and you're writing about how you feel. Next from there, you can go into stilling the mind and meditation. And for those of you that want to really talk, and counseling is there. You can come see us if you have issues that you want to bring to resolution. And but the bottom line is start a spiritual practice and let out what wants to come out from there. Even if it's not pretty in the start, know that there is great light on the other side of that tunnel, and that's where fulfillment is. When you are able to let that out and get to the other side, because there is an other side. I've heard that saying recently, what goes in with pain is going to come out with pain. So yeah, if you have some wounding, which we all do, and if you're a dad, to show your kids that you're working on yourself and to better yourself, you have any idea what that does for your kids, what permission you're giving them, and you getting better and you becoming a better person. You are just opening the doors for your kids and paving the road to fulfillment and self-love, and doing that for them. So if you haven't started your work, start your work and continue down that path, because you can come to peace and fulfillment within you and live a life you love to live.
Yeah, Dane's living proof, in fact, so because he experienced all of it, all the pain, all the rage, all the stuff. We didn't get deep into it today, but he's experienced all that. He's even within the success, I'm sure you experienced a lot of that during even that time. A lot of that's there still, and then you did this deeper work and you found such freedom, on the other side of that, and live from that now. So that's so beautiful. Thank you, Dane, so much for coming on today and just having this conversation to share with me and everybody that's tuned in. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me, Daniel. Always good to chat. Anytime.
Likewise. All right. Bye for now.
Okay, my friends.
Thank you for listening in to Just Two Conscious Guys Talking, where our mission is to impact millions of men ultimately to deepen their awakening by examining their consciousness of what's been unfolding for them with male stereotypes and programming that has allowed them to have opportunities to evolve during these times. It's an exciting time to bring more love to men and women around the world, and we are grateful for you tuning in today. Feel free to share this episode and keep tuning in, and also look in the show notes for a link to get notifications of future episodes. Until the next time, everyone, goodbye for now.